Okay, let's get started. Hari, thank you very much for joining in today for day one of DeepTech Innovation Week at Network Science. Let us get started. So everyone, welcome. It's quite exciting to have you, host you today, have you on board. Today, as you all know, this is day one, session one of our DeepTech Innovation Week. So let's first Brilliant. So I'm quite excited to have you on board today. As I said, we have 11 presentations and 2 panel discussions spread over the next 4 days. Today, of course, we are starting off with Industry 4.0. Factories of the Future by Mind Info Tech is our first session. So we will focus on factories of the future, smart factories, and what the future behold for us with regards to manufacturing and related verticals. Of course, as we all know, we can't avoid talking about COVID-19. As a lot of you come from the manufacturing background and you work for manufacturing companies, you all would appreciate that today the entire industry is at an inflection point. A lot of things have changed because of COVID, and Industry 4.0 has also massively changed the way it has started to impact the entire manufacturing and the industrial sector. Quite interesting to note that 13% is the current contribution of Industry 4.0 to the entire sector. It's now expected to go close to $400 billion worth of investment in the next 9 to 10 years in this sector itself, which will obviously take it to close to 13% of the overall industry contribution. What is more interesting is that there is a 2 times growth in Industry 4.0 investments by the manufacturing world as compared to their own growth. So while the manufacturing industry is expected to grow at 6%, and this is global numbers, of course, Industry 4.0 is expected to grow at 12%. So that's the share of impact Industry 4.0 is going to have in all the entire manufacturing world. What does that really mean is that a lot of organizations, and I'm talking about close to 80% of manufacturers in the developed markets are of course are expecting to leverage Industry 4.0 to its fully integrated way in the next 5 years. Now that's a big number. What does that really mean for us, right? It means that it will bring about a far more connected infrastructure, machines, blurring the lines between traditional sectors, and of course, requiring massive amount of collaboration between people and machines. So that's what we are expecting Industry 4.0 to really bring on point. A lot of study has happened in terms of are companies really able to address the challenges posed by COVID based on their implementation of Industry 4.0? McKinsey recently came out with a study which said basically that if you had no implementation of Industry 4.0, then your ability to respond to a crisis like COVID is absolutely at a very negligible level. However, if you have at least one or a few use cases that are scaled across global locations, then you had 96% ability to respond to the crisis. Now that's massive from an impact that Industry 4.0 is having. So what does this really mean for us, right? What does factories of the future mean? What does Industry 4.0 and its impact on factories really mean? I'm very glad to have Hari with us today. Hari Haran Ramakrishnan Vice President of at Motherson Sumi Infotech and Designs Limited, of course, part of the Motherson Group. Which better company to talk about factories of the future? Of course, I would request Hari to also give a quick background about his work and what Motherson is doing, and of course, want to hear from you about factories of the future, Hari. And I'm sure everyone is eagerly waiting to hear from your extensive experience in areas on product development, innovation, digital transformation, and design-led consulting. Over to you, Hari.
Hello, everyone. This is Hariharan here. As Sandeep has introduced me already, I work with Motherson Sumi Infotech and Designs Limited, MIND in short. And at the Motherson Group, we've believed in growth both from an organic perspective and an inorganic perspective. Motherson is as a group has been in the automotive sector for the last 45 plus years, and MIND has been in the industry for over 20 years now, catering initially to the needs of the Motherson Group itself, and then going forward to cater to the digital transformation needs of companies outside the Motherson Group, not only in the manufacturing sector, but also other sectors, including healthcare, banking, financial services, retail, logistics, and many more. I would just like to, give a short summary of what we're going to cover today. So I'll be covering the topic of, how industry, and by industry here, I mean the manufacturing sector, and the companies that, can navigate their journeys and survive the disruptions, right? Disruptions that can be created by situations like the pandemic. And like Sandeep has beautifully shown you the statistics on, how the inflection point is achieved, and how the industry is set to grow from here going forward, and how companies are being forced to adopt to the change. And that's going to be like the main spotlight of our discussion today. So let me look at, let's look at the crisis, right? And when I say crisis, I'm not talking about a pandemic, but every crisis that has impacted human history. And history is, witness to the fact that when our society is faced with a crisis, humans find a way out of it. And crisis has been the mother of many innovations. Let's throw back to 2020, wherein digital transformation was already underway within the industry. Many companies had taken up digital transformation initiatives, but at the same time, the industry was also struggling to maintain cost effectiveness, and the pandemic accelerated it and forced companies to either adopt end-to-end digital transformation, or else fall by the wayside. And then post-pandemic, manufacturers are still struggling to hire skilled workforce. There is major gaps in the labor for the manufacturing sector. And additionally, there is also a visible or significant growth predicted as well as visible in the cobots market, which is projected to grow to 7.5 billion in the next 6 years' time. Well, the pandemic is a reality now, and it's just 12 months, and we had a new reality to deal with, which is the pandemic. And companies, like I said, will either have to adapt or fall by the wayside. Let's look at, a scenario, where we are talking about how the fittest will survive. And let me take you to a totally different industry for a brief few seconds, right? So if you look at the banking sector, about 100 years back, the way banking was done, let's look at a region, Europe, right? Since I believe a lot of participants are from the UK and Europe today. So let's look at the UK and Europe. 100 years back, there were a lot of banks in the UK and Europe, and many of these, they existed and were very happy catering to their organic, customer base, which is basically captive in a particular town, right, or a particular city. And many of these banks, of course, evolved over a period of time and became larger. But there were many, many more which just, stayed back in their towns or cities or sometimes small countries and existed doing brick and mortar banking. And then over the years, as banking improved, they still managed to survive. But then about 6 years back, something different happened. The entire banking industry was changed by technology with neobanks like N26, Monzo, Revolut coming in and completely causing a mayhem in the banking industry, right? With while the established players who had invested in digital transformation, they could survive. The companies which stuck to the traditional banking and were still dependent on their captive population were majorly impacted. One example I can tell you, a bank in Malta, for example, right, was majorly impacted because they were totally dependent on their immediate captive population. But these neobanks came and upset the apple cart. We do not want a similar situation in the manufacturing sector. So let's talk about the ever evolving industrial landscape. So I'm not sure if many of you have heard of it, but there is a theory called diffusion of innovation. And here we have the innovators and early adopters. The innovators are obviously the people who change the game. They come up with the new tricks, and the innovators are the early birds, and they get the worm. But the second mouse, which is the early adopters, get the cheese here. And then, of course, there's a huge chasm of opportunity, which gets missed by many, many people. Typically around, we're talking about here, almost 85% of the populace, the 85% of the industrial base. And then come the early majority of, 34% and so on and so forth. And finally, there are the laggards, the 16% who are the last to change. And they absolutely reap no benefits out of the innovation, out of the change, the transformations that have happened in the industry. So let's look at specific areas of Industry 4.0, steering into, the supply chain scenario. Core-based survey states that 1 in 10 companies can stay ahead of their supply chain challenges. And with transportation complications, there is shortage of staff and increased downtime in the industry is struggling to keep up with its consumer demands. Let's look at one such company, which is a laggard, right? And this is a story of missed opportunities. There's an international goods company operating in 8 locations, operates in a decentralized and siloed setup. And due to COVID, it is facing supply chain issues and is unable to address the increase in both demand and supply. And then they have to, it is imperative for them to keep the goods flowing to the locations. But in the absence of any data or forecasts and rising demand, they're unable to meet the consumer demands. The outcome is visible. They missed the opportunity. They've been unable to ride on the catalyst that has happened in the form of COVID. And whereas they could have sailed through the crisis by utilizing solutions like AI/ML and centralizing data, they weren't able to capitalize at all. On the other hand, we have an early adopter, a German ancillary company, which works with multiple raw material supplier. Now, they have shipment delays and increased materials wastage issues. While they're a Six Sigma company, one of the biggest challenges they face is their own suppliers do not comply to Six Sigma, and they were facing over 36,000 defective pieces in every million pieces delivered to them. They have an opportunity to adopt a complete smart factory model, wherein they don't have, at the same time, they face a challenge that they don't have any tools and solutions currently. They also, have a issue of being able to track and trace the movement of raw materials and detecting anomalies in real time, which could make the operation for them suffer. To fix the solution, to fix this, they adopted a solution called Motif Prophecy, and along with the factory module of Motif, enabling the company to improve operational efficiency and detecting patterns to address anomalies in real time. And along with that, they also implemented a solution called Morango Ledger, with which they were able to track and trace shipment of the goods. What happened is, very simply, they were able to reduce 70% wastage 70% in wastage, and at the same time achieve over 40% increase in operational efficiency. They also were able to improve their on-time delivery, and at the same time, obviously track and trace every move, mile, and medium, that was in the works. Let's look at a different scenario now, steering into the dealership after service center, after sales service center. Now, no customer visits are taking place in a COVID scenario, of course. The connected car services will open avenues for remote services that will cut in the revenues for automakers and dealerships. At the same time, customer retention is a challenge as existing and new intermediaries continue to steer service and business away. Now, let's look at it from the perspective of typical OEM, right? What they want is that, let's say, a customer who comes in and buys a vehicle or model of their vehicle within their brand or their brand family when they're probably 25, they stick and stay loyal to that brand, and probably until they're 60, for the next 30-35 years, they continue to be loyal to the same brand and continue to buying increasing or improving models of the same brand, right? That is the how would I put it, the best case scenario. There are also large digital players such as eBay, Amazon, Alibaba, and Tencent who are looking for a share of the spare parts business, likely leading to declining margins once they've accumulated enough buying power. There are repair shops which are having difficulty obtaining parts. Electrification effects could be huge, and shared mobility and autonomous driving are very much in play now. Now, within this sector, let's look at the story of an unhappy car owner. His car broke down, and he's been averse to servicing, but he's on the way to his office. He has no other option but to go in to service his vehicle on that day. He calls up a service center. He goes there. He has to wait for over an hour at the arrival at the center. First for having his turn to get to the counter where they look at the vehicle, and thereafter to get his vehicle inspected and a whole lot of other stuff. Eventually, he has to come back after 8 hours again to collect his vehicle, or possibly the next day with no real idea of when he really is going to get his car back. So he's left without a car for the day on top of that. And at the end of the day, when he goes back to collect his vehicle, he's told that they will not accept cash payment, or there's no payment by wallet. So he has to come back the next day, or probably his driver has to come back the next day to collect the car. And on his way back home, he's thinking of selling his car, and he's wondering, is this what every customer faces? This kind of an unpleasant servicing experience. And then there is Mr. White, who never has a problem in servicing his car. His car is equipped with sensors that collect data on the car health. Also, he has a mobile app wherein he can record all visible and audible defects in the vehicle. At the same time, his OEM has, or his dealership has tied up with a product called Prophecy, which also captures historical data from the service center. So on one side, you have historical data coming in from the service center into Prophecy. On the other hand, there is manual inputs received on visible and audible damages, which are received by Prophecy. And eventually, it's also capturing real-time data from the sensors in the vehicle on the vehicle behavior, the way the vehicle is interacting with the road, the way the driver behavior is impacting the vehicle. All these inputs are coming in, based on which Prophecy is predicting the outage, or potential outage rather, and timeline of that, and sending an input to the vehicle owner to book his servicing within a specific window. He gets that alert on his mobile app. He books the service appointment. Now, when he books that service appointment, that notification is immediately going to the service center. They're also receiving the complete vehicle data along with all known issues, past historical data, and the prediction by prophecy on what could have gone wrong or what could be going wrong rather. This is preventive maintenance we're talking about. And at the same time, they know everything about the client. And they also know that this client is possibly a high net worth client. His car is probably going to take more than 8 to 10 hours of service. So probably they need to give a swap car out there. They also dial in advance to find out from Mr. Y if he would like to have his car picked up. They drop a swap car by and take his car from him. Throughout the next 24 to 48 hours, as long as the car needs to get serviced, he keeps getting notifications informing him about the status. If any approvals are required, he approves it on his phone. Eventually, he gets a notification which informs him the invoice amount, which he pays through his e-wallet, and then the car gets dropped by at his doorstep, or he can go and pick it up by, after giving the swap car back. And this is a customer now who's completely happy with the service. Every time he's going to buy a car, he's possibly going to, insist on buying the same brand or look forward to buying the same brand because he's a happy customer. Let's look at the future drivers of buying. Customer centricity, personalization, and quality customer experience. These are going to be the future drivers of buying. I say future, however, these are already the drivers for buying a vehicle today. The enablers for this, drivers are going to be predictive and preventive analysis, automated servicing, and mobility options that OEMs can offer. At the same time, millennials will be the largest new car purchasing demographic by 2025, and consumers are going to be spending about 15 hours buying a new car and probably 50 hours having it serviced. So digitizing the entire customer experience is imperative and the key to develop, into mobility providers of the future. So what we're trying to say is a happy customer is equal to a sticky customer. Sandy?
Hey, Hari, absolutely great. And, looking at the examples that you have given of making the entire, car, connected and giving an end-to-end view to the service providers so that they can predict how the car performance will be is fabulous. And as I said, right, who better than the Motherson Group to talk about it from an automotive standpoint. We've got an amazing set of audience today, and I would not want to miss an opportunity to ask the audience a quick question. There is a poll which will now flash on your screens. Maybe I request everyone to quickly give your answers. We will then see the response that we are getting from the audience and then take a quick reaction from you, Hari.
Sure, thanks, Sandy.
Okay, so the poll is live. We are expecting people to quickly give your recommendations, your responses. And in the meantime, everyone, please, there is a question and answer window. As you see, we have already started to get a few responses or questions on the Q&A module. So please share that as well. I will ask the questions to Hari at the Q&A time that we have towards the end of this session. Fabulous. We're getting the responses thick and fast. We will just give one last 5 seconds for everyone to quickly answer. We are still getting a good number of responses, so. Okay, so can we, yeah, I'm still getting the responses. I'm tempted to end the poll, but I'm still getting the responses. So I'll just give another 10 seconds maybe for everyone to respond. Okay, fabulous. So this is wealth of data. What we will do is end the poll, and if my team can share the results.
Wow.
Hari, we've got 50 of the 83 total participants that we have in this session who have responded.
This is really encouraging, Sandeep. I mean, to see that so many people not only agree, but many of them are already in, not many actually, all of them actually are already in early stages or already have planned for adoption. This is really interesting. And again, when we talk about, the smart factory, I think it's understandable that lack of strategy could be a major issue, and as well as companies are lacking digital champions. These are issues that are real issues that are being faced in the industry, and also many people are still stuck with legacy systems, right? And these are things that we need to work around, by having the right layer. Yeah, meaning, yeah. So you got a
Absolutely.
point. Yeah.
Fabulous, fantastic. So let's stop sharing the results.
Yeah.
As we mentioned, Q&A is open. Please send out your questions. We have started to get a few questions. We will ask those to Hari towards the end of his session. Hari, please go ahead with Smart Factory.
Right. So thanks, Andy, again. So steering into the manufacturing sector setup, this factory, right? The crux of the discussion today, the factories of the future. So let's switch from traditional automation to a fully connected and flexible system, right? I'm sorry, some challenge. Yeah. So what's the need of a smart factory, right? So we have to forecast demands for products, scrap rates, improving efficiency of the plants, skilled labor shortage, identify new revenue streams. The list is endless, right? So let's look at typical, what I would call as a smart factory ecosystem. So you have the digital foundation, right? And you have the connected ecosystem, which includes continuous ingestion of data from traditional data sets, which could be your ERPs, your CRMs, new sensors as well, location-based data, as well as real-time collaboration between different parties, strengthening internal communication between departments. And I personally feel that one of the most important parts about having a strong digital foundation is the inter-department collaboration. Stakeholder collaboration is one of the key tenets or key pillars for digital transformation or any factory transformation. Going on to optimized operations, predictable volumes, increased uptime, overall cost reductions. These are key factors on optimized operations. Again, when we talk about transparency is very, very key to any smart factory ecosystem. Every person in the ecosystem, right from the factory worker to the plant manager, to the line of business owners, the senior management, they need to have complete visibility on all the matrices, to enable quick and fast decision making. At the same time, what you also need is to have interconnected systems, which are coming from the first foundation that we spoke about, leading into using analytics, coming up with predictions for consumer demands, which will enable quick and optimized operations with models like JIT getting implemented here. Then there is responsiveness, again, being implemented through preventive and predictive analytics, which is a major factor to enable responsiveness, right? Which includes real-time monitoring, automated restocking. In the example of Mr. Y that I spoke about a little while back, I'm sorry for the disturbance, folks. In the example of Mr. Y that I spoke to you in the as an early adopter a little while back, the key aspect about the OEM being able to respond fast was, analytics, preventive and predictive analytics. And that's a major factor to responsiveness. And lastly, being adaptive and agile. And being adaptive is not a factor of, just one person. It's an organizational DNA change that we are talking about here with respect to, having every person within the factory, within the organization, be adaptive and agile. You cannot have a digital foundation without having every stakeholder group and every stakeholder in the ecosystem, being adaptive, being agile, and working together. Let's look at a connected ecosystem, right? On the top, you have the verticals, which are resource, manufacturing, and supply chain in a connected ecosystem. The rows are connected, optimized, and predictive insights. These are basically the horizontals. And then I've put across various use cases here, including real-time visibility, shop floor visibility to management, asset utilization, intelligence to handle variance in demand, etc. Now, these use cases, when implemented collectively, they provide you the business outcomes of having real-time reporting and data analytics for continuous improvement. And continuous improvement is a major aspect of any factory, right? Regardless of whether you follow Kaizen or Six Sigma. Next aspect is the next outcome is with respect to stock optimization, leading to reduced supplier plan fluctuations. And this again, when I spoke about the digital ecosystem or the digital foundation, enabling opportunities like JIT, right, is key to this. And thereafter, alert notification for critical events, error proofing, and process interlocking. And when we talk about this, basically we are talking about agility as well as responsiveness in the digital foundation I spoke about. Now let's look at a case study of a smart factory, right? Wherein we are talking about a 100-year-old Dutch construction conglomerate, very typical company in Europe, right? Which is having a 100-year-old background, having about 8 to 10 companies, and predominantly working in the construction sector, providing materials for civil constructions, including roads, highways, etc. And this is now a company which is into its third or fourth generation of industrialists who've come in and taken over the company. But in the past, the way they've been running is where they still have their entire P&L maintained in an Excel sheet, right? And while they have, certain solutions, right, like some early Microsoft products, they're still legacy solutions that they're using. And at the end of the day, with a complete P&L being maintained in Excel, it's very difficult for them to look at their inventory or sales forecast. They also end up, looking at bulk discounts and look at unrealistic predictions from their sales, which end up making them order in bulk, increasing their inventory costs. At the same time, they also have declining operational efficiency due to shortage of staff. Now, when they looked at a fix for this, they implemented Motif as a solution. And with this, they were able to connect their ERPs, their CRMs. They're able to capture their sales logs easily from CRM. They also implemented Prophecy, which enabled them to detect patterns, address anomalies in real time, giving them end-to-end visibility for timeline. Now, I'll tell you some typical issues which were, resolved by this, right? One, they were having different companies ordering similar material from, suppliers at different prices. They were able to rationalize this, immediately, once they implemented Motif, right? Another thing they were able to immediately rectify is they were able to enable just-in-time very well, wherein Prophecy was able to capture data from the CRM, and at the same time connecting with their systems. It was also able to draw data on the time taken for a supplier to reach the goods to once ordered to the company, and based on the minimum threshold required or the minimum order quantity required to service the next 15 days or 2 weeks of a sales forecast, they were able to plan and they also implemented actually another platform called Henkan, which enabled them to have an application, productivity application in the plant, which would give the plant manager an alert on whenever the stock goes to the threshold and the request has to be shot to the supplier for further materials. The plant manager approves it, and it goes back to Morango ledger, which thereafter takes up the part of tracking and tracing the product movement from the suppliers. With this, the company was able to enable 40% saving in cost. There were very few machine breakdowns because obviously Prophecy, enabled them with the preventive maintenance, and they were able to avert, major issues that could have happened. Their maintenance was now, scheduled completely with preventive maintenance from here. Now, the future roadmap they're now looking at is implementing collaborative bots in the factory to reduce the labor costs in an expensive labor market. Let's look at coming back to our, laggards and early adopters scenario. Let's look at two very similar companies, right? One is a $1 billion auto part manufacturer with about 15 plants spread across 8 countries. The second is a German auto part manufacturer, a 3 billion euro company with global operations again across 8 countries and over 20 plus plants. Now, the key problem areas, if of course you have it on the screen, but two of the biggest problem areas were high operational inefficiencies and low product quality. Now, there is a transformation opportunity for both of them to switch from traditional decentralized factory model to a smart factory. Let's look at what happened with them. So first one, and we are talking about now different scenarios. So the first scenario is manual efforts to analyze performance. They implemented IDAX, which is an IIoT platform. This integrated with machines and their ERP software for complete automation and proper data analysis. They introduced a combined solution, including IoT, augmented reality, digital and analytics, providing complete health picture of the shop floor to address and improve productivity. Now, when we talk about you were talking about the early adopters. The benefit they gained was 50% reduction in dead inventory. The laggards, on the other hand, chose to do nothing, and they have high inventory carrying, cost, and they're also having dead inventory in their hands. In the second step that was taken by the early adopters, the problem here was, enabling, the factory with productive data inputs, having a higher visibility on operations. To enable this, they adopted Motif Factory Analytics with IoT-enabled intelligence product suite from IDAX, combining it with Motif, which provided them real-time data and business intelligence. They were now able to get a holistic view of their products, materials, enabling the people on the ground, including their plant managers, to efficiently enable the complete production process. So with this, the early adopters were able to identify the causes of high inefficiencies in real time, while the laggards, who again chose to do nothing about it, had inaccurate production and manpower planning, which led to line stoppages. In the third solution that was taken up, the third problem was machine operators could make mistakes while using the correct raw materials, and basically a lack of raw material management. For this, the early adopters chose to use Morango Ledger. By using this warehouse management solution, they integrated with sensors, microchips for different tools, machines, even raw material to make the product smart. This enabled them to have 15% reduction in unplanned downtimes for the early adopters, whereas the laggards, having done nothing, they faced huge breakdowns, leading to low asset utilization. The fourth problem with respect to low asset utilization and product quality, the early adopters, again, using Motif Factory Analytics, they addressed this, and this enabled them to integrate predictive analytics tool, which is Prophecy, along with data coming in from different data sources. They were able to look at predefined parameters for the equipment. The users could now detect equipment failures in advance and fix them. And at the same time, They also used continuous simulation using digital twins to improve the design of the products as well as to ensure equipment uptime. The early adopters got 10% improvement in asset utilization, whereas the laggards had just continued with the same issue. And then the fifth problem on ad hoc process-based decision making. Again, this was addressed by early adopters by using motif prophecy. And using the data analytics, they could now enable 10% output increase in certain areas whilst improving delivery and customer satisfaction. At the same time, the laggards choosing to do nothing. They have a holistic view of KPIs to drive operational improvements, but I mean, which is basically missing. Now, with respect to the problem of difficulty in action prioritization, again, using motif, the early adopters were able to detect the required maintenance activity using augmented reality for remote assistance and AGVs, that are automated guided vehicles for material movement on the shop floor, as well as cobots for the collaborative bots in the factory. They were able to have these bots working along with humans to bring in efficiency and high precision manufacturing. This enabled them to save $1.5 million in cost. The laggards, on the other hand, had high customer claims. So at the end of it, I'll just leave you with the statistics. I hope you're able to see my screen in spite of the Zoom popping up on the screen. So essentially, the smart factory is expected to grow to 135 billion by 2026 from an estimated 80 billion in 2021. And of course, there is increasing demand for industrial robots, as we saw at the beginning of the presentation, as well as there are various developments in the wireless sensor networks and their adoption. There are huge gains to have for early adopters who have at least partially implemented smart manufacturing initiatives, as was also shared by Sandeep in the statistics that he shared at the beginning of our presentation today. So it's up to you to decide whether you want to be an early adopter or be a laggard. Sandeep, anything
Awesome.
you want to share at this point of time?
Yes, Hari, thank you very much. How much ever I hate this, but we are just about 2-3 minutes left. What I would like to do is, we've got a few questions, Hari. What I would like to do is, while we will have the second poll going on just now for the audience, but in the meantime, if my team can send out the poll questions to everyone, the second poll question, please. In the meantime, I'll ask one of these questions to you.
Before that, Sandy, is it possible for me to just show a quick video to show the audience what a smart factory looks like?
Let's go ahead. Yeah, let's do that, and we will come to the poll.
I hope everybody is able to see listen to the audio as well. This is within the Marasan group for one of our group companies, SMR. So you see, most of the things that we spoke about in our presentation are implemented here already. That's mostly the factory setup, and I'll just show you a quick video on motif analytics and how it can help you. thanks, Sandeep. I think we'll suffice with these 2 videos for now.
Sure, sure. Hari, I just wanted to let the poll anyways go on.
Sure.
In the meantime, there are a few questions that we have got, and this is for the audience. Since we are out of time, one question you've already answered through the video. All the questions that we have got today from the audience, all of them will be responded back from our side to the audience through an email communication that we'll send out. So give us some time. We will of course send out a detailed answer to all the questions that are being answered, just to make sure that we are not, taking time out as far as these questions are concerned. There are a few questions which are with regards to low-skilled laborers and impact on them. There is a question around culture. There is a question around business strategy and digitization strategy, accountability and things like that. My request to all of you who are attending this session, we have a panel discussion coming up later in the evening today. If you are able to make time and attend that, some of our panel members would be able to answer these questions, because they have dealt with absolutely the same questions around strategy, leadership, culture, skills, upgradation of skills from an industry 4.0 standpoint. That's why I just thought we will take a quick, we may not be able to answer, but our commitment that you will get all the answers from our side. Let the questions come in, absolutely no problems, and we'll get you the answers very, 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 very soon through an email communication. In the meantime, we've got the poll going on, and may I request now the team to stop the poll, and let's quickly have a view on what the answers that we have got at this point in time. If you can just share the results as well. Hari, the results are in front of you.
Right. So, interesting. Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate, a lot of people feeling that efficient tools and software alone will be able to tackle the expensive labor market. At the same time, that while there could be some reluctance with, how cobots will, take care of the scenarios, we can always play those out as well when we discuss more in detail.